Hey guys, in the video that follows, your life in a Sims game, I show a lot of different things, but you don't need to see this at all as a video. If you're driving, you don't need to see this. If you hear a weird segment, I'm just showing a little clip from a Sims game. I show a bunch of thumbnails and stuff you don't really need to see. Per the last video, guys, I never would turn off comments. You know I would never turn off comments. YouTube did that, turned off comments, because we talked about Danny, who's underage, whatever, he's a child. Really?
What? Is det välkommen? Is it what was nina? Oh, stolen in what I it's a crown, the bottom one foot.
Hey guys, it's Matt. This is a wake-up call to the entire truth community. It is along the same lines of what I did 2 videos back. The entire reality is fake. It's artificially engineered, and obviously so at this point from the outside. We keep analyzing everything going on as if everything going on is real. Like, what? Stop it. Just stop it. I mean, it's not real. Reality breaks down very quickly now. So stop going into your toy box and looking between your bookends at how things work. Now, look. This is the truth community here. Okay, this is the poster from Shallow Hal. If you don't know the premise, I've talked about this movie many times. It's one of my favorites in terms of a comedy. See, Tony Robbins, and we'll get to that scene in a moment, he hypnotizes Hal. He's a shallow person. He only sees the looks of a woman. But Tony Robbins has him see all of a sudden the inner beauty. So all of a sudden, Hal here, Jack Black, sees Gwyneth Paltrow. She was presented in the movie as a beautiful woman. I don't know how that casting don't make no sense. But let's just pretend she's a beautiful woman that's not grating and obnoxious. But he sees this, and even that is artificially enhanced Gwyneth Paltrow for the movie poster. No way she liked that. But see the world, see the shadow? She's like 800 pounds. That's what the world sees, but he only sees the inner beauty. So his friend Maurizio, who's Jason Alexander, thinks he got screwed. Well, he didn't get screwed. He got a gift, no doubt about it. But this is the truth community. They see Gwyneth Paltrow. That's what the reality wants to present. But there's something going on in the shadows. It's not that hard to see. So let me just start with the Shallow Hal example here. He meets Tony Robbins. I have to do it like this. I can't show you any clips. He meets Tony Robbins in the elevator. The elevator breaks down. They talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. And Tony Robbins kind of gets the understanding he's got some issues. Hal's got some psychological issues. So he says, "What's your perfect woman?" And Hal's like, "Well, she'd have the legs and thighs of Britney Spears, but I don't like the top half of Britney Spears. Let's put Jane Seymour, young Jane Seymour, in the movie, we talked about the last video, Somewhere in Time. We use her top half." So he's like, you're not even satisfied with these beautiful women by themselves. You have to combine the parts. You're that shallow. You're looking for that type of perfection, Tony Robbins says. He says, "Hal, you've got issues." So Tony Robbins says, "I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to make it so you can only see the inner beauty in people. Would you like that?" And Hal's like, yeah, I'd like that. So then he's, "Devils, come out!" And the elevator, they're stuck in the elevator. 4 hours later, the elevator opens up. They walk out. And of course, most of you have seen the movie, so I'll shut up. But the first absolutely beautiful woman Hal sees, well, she's just a very nice person, inner beauty. She really isn't that nice on the outside. How Maurizio thinks Hal's been screwed. He's really been given a gift. So we are Hal, okay, in this truth community, most of us. Okay, let's continue with the scene, and then I'll shut up about the movie after I make the comparison how the truth community is Hal, for the most part. Totally buying the illusion, like there's nothing at all going on. So Tony Robbins hypnotizes him in the elevator. You'll only see the inner beauty. First thing that happens, he comes out on the street to get a cab. She's about to get the cab. He's about to get the cab. So they share a cab. Now, it's only, pretty much the prettiest girl you'll ever see in your life. And she, of course, starts liking how all these beautiful women start falling for him. But see, The rest of the world sees this. It's actually the real actress. She's just made up to look like this, but he's seeing the inner beauty. Okay, you got it. But the point is this, okay? The rest of the world sees this. He sees a gorgeous woman. The point of the movie, well, the point of the movie as it relates to the truth community is Hal is falling. Now, it is a gift. Fine, it's a gift that Tony Robbins gave him, but Hal is falling for the illusion, okay? Whether you think it's a gift or not, I guess that's not the point here. He runs into Gwyneth Paltrow, who's really about, 900 pounds or something. You can see her shadow here. But Hal sees this. Now, why they picked Gwyneth Paltrow to be one of these beautiful women that Hal sees only the inner beauty, so she reflects herself back at Hal as being gorgeous. Why they did that casting of Gwyneth Paltrow, I don't know. She's slightly irritating and repulsive in basically everything she's presented in my opinion. But nevertheless, she's supposed to be, to Hal at least, look beautiful. He's falling for the illusion. The rest of the world sees what Rosemary really is. Okay, fine. Hal's the truth community. He's falling for the illusion put forth by the entire reality. He's analyzing Gwyneth Paltrow. Even the way she's presented in this movie poster, that's completely faked and airbrushed. No way she looks like that. But he's analyzing this. But what's the point of analyzing? He might have fun doing it on a Saturday night, whatever. That's for himself. But see, if in terms of making the parallel to the truth community, if he's analyzing, okay, what color hair does she have? How perfect is her skin? How does this fit together? He's analyzing the illusion. What's the point of analyzing the illusion if it's an illusion? Is the truth community going to keep, I don't know, let's just pick 10 topics. And as I give my case at the podium for each topic, how absurd it is and how quickly the reality breaks down and why we keep looking at it, I'm going to be a little bit obnoxious, a little bit condescending, or maybe a lot. But this is necessary. Stop looking at the illusion. Stop looking at the Gwyneth Paltrow. We'll just call reality the Gwyneth Paltrow and thinking it's real. It's not. It breaks down at every turn inside of 30 seconds. And these truth channels keep analyzing, and they just keep looking around their toy box for the answer. It's not in the toy box. It wants you spending all your time looking between your bookends for the answer. It can't be found.
Love's on the one. Oh, prairie woo.
Chị là thầy.
One more thing about the movie that is an essential parallel. He keeps meeting these women. Of course, they're the most beautiful women you've ever seen, and they keep falling for him. Now, at some point, like right after the dance scene, if you know Shell How, he needs to say, well, wait a second. Something is going on here. This is what the truth community doesn't do. Something's going on here. So let me get this straight. He could just talk to himself and figure this out. Let me get this straight. I had no luck at all. I was total schmuck, whatever. And then I meet this Tony Robbins, and then all of a sudden, all day long, all these beautiful women are falling for me. Now, he might be wrong in terms of trying to figure it out, but at least he's aware that something isn't quite right. See, that's what the truth community doesn't do. He could say, well, I don't know, maybe I'm dreaming. I saw that movie Inception. Give me a little dreidel thing, I'll spin it, whatever. See if, or a Chakotay from Star Trek, tap yourself so many times and look at the moon and see if, or maybe I'm dreaming, because there's no way, like, every girl I meet is, I mean, he should have at least figured out, that was the Tony Robbins brainwashing, but he doesn't even put anything together like the truth community. He doesn't say something's not right with reality. Perhaps my perception is off, or I'm dreaming, or I was hit by a bus and this is some sort of Hal's concept of heaven that he's taken into the astral. He doesn't ever stop and pause and say, well, wait a second here. Okay, I can maybe meet the girl in the cab, but it keeps happening, so something isn't right with reality itself. He never stops, as the truth community doesn't stop. So let's just do 10 examples. Could do 1,000 examples of how the reality can't pull this off. It can't possibly be real. I'm going to get a little obnoxious and condescending or whatever, but this is just the way I'm going to do this video. You know, I'm nicer than the presentations I'm about to make.
Bye.
Later.
Let's do the easy one first. Space. So we're still looking between the bookends, looking in the toy box. Let's do space. So let me get this straight. You know, we're all convinced, as nobody goes anywhere. Nobody ever walked on the moon. The moon isn't what they say it is. I mean, the allusions through literary history, like the moon is made of cheese, that are carried artificially through time. It alludes to the fact that it's something else. You know, probably not cheese, but it ain't a rock and dust. And so you've got this space program of which hundreds of thousands of people, I'm sorry, I'm going to get a little obnoxious, a little condescending, but this is necessary. It hurts me more than it hurts you. Trust me. You know, hundreds of thousands of people worked closely on it for now, I don't know, we're approaching 60 years, and nobody went anywhere. And somehow this was all just perfectly pulled off by regular men and women. Everybody that walked into a room that was privy to the information that nobody goes anywhere, from the astronauts themselves to the guy that designed the capsule door and the explosive bolts. That's from the right stuff. Everybody that saw a little too much, the men in black come in and they sit them down, and they're paid and threatened, and they say, you can't talk about what we were just revealed to you. And nobody mentions anything to their wife, and then she never mentions anything at the bridge club. It's just perfectly pulled off by reality itself, over and over and again for 60 years without a major mistake or a slip up, and mistakes on purpose, because that's how the reality has to do business. But we're not going to talk about that. And Matt, there were people that were getting close to talk. Gus Grissom, and look what they did to him. Yeah, there's always a way to explain it away inside the toy box. But then outside of Gemini and Apollo and Mercury, and it's always carried, the Greek gods are always carried forth through that reality presentation. Now you have the recycling, the billionaire space programs. This is a reality Sims game. It's a joke. We need to all stop looking in your toy box for the answer. The answer is a Sims game. That's it. That's all you need to know. It can't be figured out. You have these clowns like this presenting space programs. His net worth, for no apparent reason, just rockets from 500 or 600 million to 160 billion inside of 10 years. That makes perfect sense. Richard Branson in his spaceport in New Mexico does absolutely nothing for 15 years, but he now is the first man. He's the man to beat going into space. Then Bezos goes up with and all the people involved in that are all perfectly in on it. Nobody leaks anything. It's all perfectly pulled off so the masses buy it, when we know, in our community, we know nobody went anywhere. See, it's a reality breakdown. All right. If you want it, it doesn't, if you stop looking in your toy box, I'll applaud whatever you come up with, no matter how freaking bizarre it is. Say, yay, somebody went outside their toolbox. I'm just being grating and obnoxious in this presentation. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit nicer than this. Yay, somebody went outside their toolbox. And if somebody, toolbox or toy box, somebody could say, even if somebody came forth and said there must be two completely different realities, one for us and one for the normie, because it's not possible they kept pulling it off, and every normie accepts it without any questioning. And maybe there's a completely different reality that actually the normies are participating in, and we're in a separate reality. And I don't know how that's pulled off, but this isn't okay. This is one of my theories, guys. But I'm just saying, if somebody came forth with that, that's a whole lot better to me than how the Men in Black and the secret societies just pulled it off for 60 years. See, it breaks down. It's a reality breakdown. And if this was the only one we had, there's like hundreds of these now. So remember the Sims game I showed coming in? It's not a cop-out to say that's what it is. That's the only possible explanation. Matt, you're even going into your own toy box. Well, yeah, I have to. I can't avoid my own mind. I guess you're right if you want to put it like that. I'm still going into my toy box to find the answer. I can't come up with an answer that's outside myself. There is at some point a limitation to what I could come up with, but this is the best I can do. At least I'm no longer saying it's real. I'm saying it's artificially engineered and it's more like a Sims game from the outside, like I said 2 videos ago. I mean, look at this. Could possibly believe this. This is completely believable to the normie population. It's like 2 realities being presented at once. All right, enough of this. What is my cousin Vinny said? I'm done with this guy here. Oh, that was terrible.
Hit it. Oublie spritum. Kikam.
Regarding space, we also have these incredible, impossible stories and fairy tales pulled off, and heroic rescues, and endless movie posters with the right eye symbolism, the endless right eye symbolism. If there's someone named Dave that's helping me capture certain things with the right eye symbolism, and I think once we have like 15,000 images, I'll put them all together in a video and just say this can't happen in a real world, how much the right eye symbolism comes forth. And then the truth community always resorts back to the same old explanations in their toy box. And they'll say, back to the space program, let's go back to Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. They'll say, Matt, you didn't talk about compartmentalization. They'll come up with it. That explains everything away. And it did, because we want to be able to explain it away in a way where the world is still real. So we wanted to latch on to those explanations in the truth community 5 or 7 or 10 years ago and say, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Compartmentalization. The guy that made the Swedish-built Austin Powers penis pump, he's not aware of the guy that makes the hatch with the explosive bolts. So they all do their little thing, and then all of them together don't know nobody went anywhere. Oh, it makes the truthers feel all warm and special inside. Compartmentalization. That way they can just keep studying it, and it all makes sense. And that's what probably reality itself and the highest level minions implant this stuff into the truth community. So it says you can continue to look into this. The fact that hundreds of thousands of people should be in on it and have to all be, here's something so you can sleep at night. Compartmentalization. Here's something so you can sleep at night. Paid and threatened. Anybody that comes into the know when they shouldn't be in the know, they're paid and threatened. And that allows the truth community to rationalize and say, oh yeah, the world's still real. The world's still normal. And everything still is between my reality bookends and my toy box. So paid and threatened, compartmentalization. Oh, there's predictive programming. That was another one. Oh, it's predictive programming. That allows the truth community to say, oh, okay, world's still real. I can still sleep well at night. That's all it is. That's all it is. I mean, it's not that they're probably laughing at us. The reality itself, or the high level minions, will say there's a group of people here that shine. They're going to see through a lot of this stuff. Oh, we figure that out, Ted. Shut up. You just give them little concepts so they can explain it away inside their own little insane asylum, like paid and threatened and compartmentalization. That's all we have. That's all we have to give them with us. That's all we have to tell them. Yeah. For probably 20 years, that's all you'll have to tell them. They'll still be trying to figure it out inside their little box. When if they just climbed out of the box and looked down at it, they would see right through it. But that that's a rare thing, and they probably aren't going to do that. Okay. Before getting into this, I need to address an objection, a kindergarten level objection that comes from some of the truth community when I get in this sort of thing and say it's a fluid reality, it's not a real world, they can manipulate it, it could be a completely illusory like a Sims game. Let me address the objection that they cry out from the balcony from the first grade and kindergarten level that says, well, Matt, you're saying the same thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying, so you must be one of them. You're saying the same thing that Elon Musk said, so you must be one of them. See, Elon Musk says the chance of, you've heard that quoted over and over again through the truth community, all implanted on purpose. Elon Musk comes up and he's such a genius and he says the chances of being in base reality is just 1 in billions, because in this society we're close to having a video game that's completely indistinguishable from reality. So we can only assume that thousands of prior civilizations did that. So we might are not only living in base reality, a simulation. Elon Musk would say we're living inside of a simulation, 10 to the nth power. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson says the same thing in his bogus lecture series, where he comes forth with this fraud, and he says, we found computer code at the micro level of reality. If he found computer code 10 years ago in his university research at the quark level of reality, well, where's that research been the last 10 years? The point is, guys, I'm not saying the same as these guys. At one level I am, but if you get out of the first grade level, I'm not. See, they know, again, you just think like they do, like Contact. The map and the blueprint, Clarice Starling, or what was her name, Dr. Arroway, the map and the blueprint makes sense if you think like a vegan in multiple dimensions and on multiple levels. And then it bends around and they can read the primer, whatever that thing was, in Contact. They know at some level people like us are going to get very close as to figuring out what the hell is going on here. So do you think they're going to implant road signs that send us the wrong direction but are close? See, that's how it would work. So what they're trying to do is they want the message, they'll come out with the message that we live inside of a virtual environment or simulation. And maybe I shouldn't have led with the Sims game for this reason, because this is important. If at some point it's going to come out that we live in a simulation, they want people thinking an actual computer, zeros and ones, virtual world, the headset that Zuck of the Borg, that faked image of him walking in front of everybody with the headset with the big smile. They want you thinking in terms of the zeros and ones of the Matrix and of movies like The Terminator. It's their way of simulating. That's what they ultimately want you merging with. Their zeros and ones, their Johnny Depp transcendence, upload your consciousness into a creepy Ray Kurzweil computer. But there's other ways to explain a simulation, things we don't understand. The simulation at its root level of whoever designed this reality could be very natural. It might not work anything like a computer simulation or Sims. In this regard, I shouldn't have led with the Sims, but I have to make the point. So I'm going to come out and say it has to be some sort of simulation, fluid reality, but then there's a whole, that can be a very natural thing. It could be exactly what you signed up for as a soul or spirit coming in here. Once you say simulation, there's probably a lot of roads in front of you. Only one road is the quote, satanic or whatever, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Elon Musk path of, well, then it must be the zeros and ones that we understand. It must be the zeros and ones of this place and the, quote, evil technology and of smartphones and of quantum computers and Geordie Rose's snow cone machine. It has to be that. See, just because at one point we're saying the same thing, then the paths could diverge. And they want you thinking, okay, if you think simulation and Matt's able to convince you that this is some sort of a simulation and not very real, then you have to be then marching down the path of the simulation must be structured the way the creeps of this reality want it structured, with like computers we understand and motherboards and zeros and ones and bits and qubits of quantum computers. There could be a whole other way a more natural system could produce a simulation, things we just don't understand. So they'll see people getting close and try to hijack the message to take it the way they want to take it. And it's whenever they talk about simulation, they will always relate it to a video game, to a computer simulation, to putting your consciousness into a computer like Ray Kurzweil says, or things like that. They'll always bring you down that path and extend that hand. That's, well, Matt, you led with a Sims game. Okay, you're right. In this regard, I shouldn't have led with a Sims game. I hear you. I had to start, how else am I going to get your attention coming in? But this is a key differentiator. If I say fluid reality simulation, I'm not saying what these guys are saying. And you have the reverse psychology thing as well going on that they know the first grade truthers are fall for. That just the whole psychology 101, the kindergarten psychology saying, well, if Matt or any truther, Matt, they're not paying attention to you, whatever. If Matt or any truther gets close, then have one of these obvious shills come out and say the same thing. So then, if Matt's saying what appears to be the same thing as Neil deGrasse Tyson and frauds like this that do research at the university, we found computer code at the quark level. Well, where's your research been the last 10 years then? Go back and shut up, and do some more research. I mean, it was all a fraudulent presentation where he got on stage with this guy and all these other experts, how we live in a simulation 10 years ago. It was meant to lead you down that path. Okay, I'm beating a dead horse here. Hopefully either I explained it properly or I didn't. All right, I have to say this. I forgot one more creep when you talk about the simulation theory. One of the original guys is this Nick Bostrom simulation argument. And guys, you know what I'm going to say, so I'll keep it very, very brief. Anything that comes from the system or Harvard or Yale or MIT or wherever this guy's from, it of course is designed at its root level to mislead. So I haven't looked into all of what this guy's presented. I don't care to, but I would almost assure you it's taking anybody that gets wind that this must be some sort of a simulation. And it has, of course, it has to be, because everything breaks down at the macro, at the highest level. It all breaks down. At the micro, it all breaks down. What's smaller than an atom? Well, a proton. What's smaller than a proton? Well, they're made up of quarks. Well, what are you just going to keep going down like Russian nesting dolls forever and ever and ever? At some point, something has to be made up only of itself, which is a theoretical impossibility. So it all breaks down. It's an obvious simulation of some kind. So, but then you got guys like these that they're there to take you down, in terms of the reality creators here, real people, generator spirits. They'll want you to then have all these generators and real people and real spirits manifesting the reality they want, that it has to be connected to the along the same strain as the, quote, satanic technology that's here. The technology that comes in a smartphone is not something that is in line with the true path of a human being. So I don't, and the way the reality works, this guy might not even be in on it. You know how we've talked about this. He's probably not in on it. The reality works through minions like this. I'm just saying, if it comes from the system, he's probably here to get generators and reality creating spirits to think that reality must be like this. I'm showing a picture of the Matrix, if anybody's just listening. It must be, the more we think of reality as a simulation, the more it appears to be the Matrix. If you create that, it can be a simulation and be something much more pure and natural than the Matrix. We just things we just don't understand. Something that you potentially signed up for in coming in here, potentially. So anyway, guys, I just had to, this guy popped into my head, this Nick Bostrom, and, what a, if he's not in on it, he's obviously used by the greater reality to present something and shape the conversation, push the conversation down the smelly, stinky path that they want it down. Not the path over here that where you can learn, about the true nature of your spiritual self. They don't want that. Okay, let's go on to the next reality breakdown exercise, the 7-Eleven job application. Matt, by showing these pictures and saying the 7-Eleven job application submission, you just told the bot how to put the two together. Now you've been exposed. Yeah, okay, it probably knows my hobo's codes anyway. Probably, I would think it's highly sophisticated. They present Siri to you as a dumbed down idiot on purpose because they just want to hide that whatever Siri really could be would be about 100,000 times more sophisticated. So what is the So you're going to do another one, then you're going to do another one event, and each time you're going to be obnoxious and condescending in your presentation, Matt. Yeah. So what's the point? The point is for you to be what Hal should have been. The point is, see, like how this is the second beautiful woman that morning that went for him. Tony Robbins said, "You're going to meet who to you seem the most beautiful women in the world. You're going to meet them." And then Tony Robbins said, "And they'll want you." And then that morning, Hal met the second one, and she wanted him. She was one of the most beautiful women of all time, and she wanted him. So we're doing see, at that point, Hal should have said, he should have stopped and said, well, wait a second, something's going on here, which he never did. That's what we're doing. You can be Hal right now. And maybe after the first one, you can stop and say, you know what, he's right. Something is going on here where all this impossible stuff and the coordination of the minions and what they present on television and the synchronicities I see and the impossible coincidences and the Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities, something's going on here, and I'm not going to look at the world very real anymore. And many of you are starting to come around to that, and you know, we're already there, so I'm talking to maybe a minority, but I'm kind of talking to the general truth community that I don't think is where we are in terms of the way we see things. Well, that's arrogant, Matt. So you're just assuming you guys are way out ahead. I'm sorry. If you're looking at the world as it's real and looking for the answers between your bookends and inside your toy box, yeah, I think we are ahead. I'm sorry. The truth channels, there's thousands of truth channels doing that in terms of trying to figure out now the C thing. How exactly, we'll get to the C thing. It's no different than these. The point of this is to be Hal, to say, wait a second. That's two beautiful women inside of 40 minutes that wanted me? Something's not right here. And even if he says maybe it is my perception. Maybe they're not truly beautiful, but hey, that's a gift. So let's just keep doing. Most of us are already what Hal should have been. Most of the people listening to this. I'm just trying to send this message out to the general truth community. And people say, well, does that mean we shouldn't look at anything? No. Just come to a realization that the world isn't very real, and then, you know, have fun with what you look at, but look at it in the right light. That's not the way these truth channels are presenting. It's like they're just trying to figure everything out and everything makes sense, and it just, you know, it's frustrating to me. So let's do this one. Okay. There are, I don't know, 100 major reality breakdowns associated with the 7-Eleven job application. 100 big ones, okay? Big ones. With my favorite, of course, I would love to talk about this every single day. I can't talk about it enough. Not the beams of light and how that was pulled off, and all, how the artists at the top of the 91st floor were then later, we saw in the documentary 9/10, the final hours were later used to create these beams of light. No, the fact that only, I'll just say it again because I can't talk about it enough, that 14 videos exist of something happening to the top of the South, when there should be. I'm going to do another video on this, guys, where I'm going to do all the statistics. I'm going to dive into it for days, find out exactly how many tourists there were in Lower Manhattan, the percentage of them that likely would have had a video camera, how many news agencies there were, modeling agencies, advertising agencies. So, you know, there's 14 videos, and there should be minimum, the first time I looked at it, 300 videos. Whether you're a P or no P person, 300 videos of something happening, whether it just blew up or, you know what I'm saying? So that's a reality breakdown. And I've had people actually come to me and be like, Matt, if you count them up, now there's like 18 videos or 19 videos, whatever. Okay. When I looked at this hardcore over 10 years ago, there were basically, maybe I missed one or two of this little tiny gray thing taken from 20 miles on the other side of Hoboken. I'm not counting that. I don't, you know, that's like a Donkey Kong graphic. So there's like 14 videos of something that looks somewhat real that the news used. That there should be more like 1,400 of something happening, because all of 5 million people would have turned their camera in that general direction. So you guys, you know, I've been over this, and I'll do another video on this. But that's a reality breakdown. There's no possible way to explain where the other 300 to 400 videos are still, and even still images. Nobody talks about that. There should probably be 500 of those on top of. In the 9/10, the final hours, I said 50. I meant to say 500 or 5,000 still images. Remember, the point of all this is once you keep running up into walls, and these walls being reality breakdowns, that there's no way this could be pulled off in a normal world, then you have to go back to some sort of, it might be rudimentary and completely wrong, but you have to go back to Sim's game. You have to go back to that sort of thinking or explanation, or you keep chasing its breadcrumbs, trying to put all the pieces together as if it's real. So again, you want in every event, at least from my perspective, you can hit reality breakdown very quickly, and we could just do this, for a 24-hour filibuster with a Texas catheter. So let's do this one. Just, I don't know what I'm going to say. Just, it's not, I don't think it'll be hard for me to come up with reality breakdowns. All right, I'm looking at an image. All the images and video. I'm a no P guy. Whether you're a P or no P guy, especially a no P guy, the coordination among all the news agencies and what they presented, where they got their feed from, all of them are in on it. All the people in all the news agencies are paid and threatened. Assuming there were other hundreds and hundreds of other still images and videos, what happened to it all? In every single case, they took the person that got the still image, that worked at a modeling agency or whatever, took it to a news outlet, and just the person that they took it to, they were in on it too, and they said, oh, thank you for the image. Here's $1,000 for the image. We'll use it soon. And then they never used it, and they signed a disclaimer and waiver so they could never get rights to their own image back. In every case, all the image, whether you're a P or no P. See, even if you're a no P, there still should be 1,000 videos and still images of just the thing just blowing up without a P in the area. See, it's the same argument either way. So every case, every time they went to CNN, the right Tommy Lee Jones character, Men in Black, came back and said, I'll take that video from you, and here's $1,000 for it. And then here, sign this. And then all these people, nobody complained, then it all just was completely, perfectly covered up. Then you have the Corbett report stuff that shows the map. I've talked about this recently. The map and interconnectivity of hundreds and hundreds of defense contractors related to the Project for the New American Century and Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and SAIC and this branch of DARPA and the military and all, the map of, you've seen the map of the 7-Eleven job application, like 1,000 arrows going in different directions with everybody, all the key people in those corporations and government entities knowing what was going to happen and plotting and planning perfectly and all being in on it, where nobody talked and nothing was ever leaked. And I mean, and then you have, on top of the reality breakdowns, you have the mistakes on purpose. Let me just do this. Let's see what happens when you type in Google Images Harley guy. You don't get who we want to get. This is Harley guy. But okay, listen, let's just say this is Harley guy, but you know the one we're really talking about. Then on top of everything having to be pulled off perfectly, they'll put in mistakes on purpose. And now, how does that work? And how is that pulled off? And if they are plotting and planning everything so perfectly, they're going to let this go. They're going to let it be completely live. Some clown appearing in front of Rick Lowenthal for Fox, completely live, saying, "Oh yeah, then it went through let me explain." I can't even talk. You know what he did? I can't even say it because the video might not load. But yeah, so they're so perfect over here, but then they needed to put an inflated tire over here, so that it's actually, we come to the conclusion it's mistakes on purpose, and we try to explain that away in as a real reality. This Harley guy, this is not the Harley guy we were looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for. Have a nice day. I've got to touch on Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities, because if you do probability, the probability of flipping a coin to a head side is 50-50, right? Obviously. But then to get two heads in a row, how probabilities work, you times them together. 50-50, 50-50, that's 0.25. You times the probabilities together to the Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities. It very quickly, probably, I don't know, I'm no statistician. I slept through my quantitative business analysis class at Penn State. Probably about 30 synchronicities, it gets to be 1 in a billion. And then now we have 50, and just looking at this for a few minutes here, just pulling the screen up, there are some that I could add to my list. I have 50 in the book, and I don't think I added this because it was like a stretch, but if I add everything that's like a stretch, you get to 55 synchronicities. Pushes probably 1 in a trillion. Now, again, I don't buy 1 in a billion coincidences. I doubt you do. This by itself is a reality breakdown. So very, very quickly, I'll just keep it 45 seconds or less. Let me just go to this one here. Elected in 1860, elected in 1960, became elected after famous debates with Douglas, became elected after famous debates with Nixon. Both had civil rights as a key issue. I know these are bogus issues, guys. These are issues that I didn't even put in my list because it's too much of a stretch. But lost a child while in office, lost a child while in office. In terms of was slain while president on a Friday, in the presence of his wife, Booth, who shot Lincoln, he fled a theater into a warehouse. Oswald, who shot Kennedy, fled a warehouse into a theater. Go on and on and on. If I even put these ones into my list that are a stretch, then I get to about 55, which probably push one in trillions. By itself, this is impossible. And if anybody's screaming at me, here's one I've got to add. I remember this, but for some reason I didn't even add it. Of all the synchronicities, you have a limited edition Lincoln to Kennedy penny that came out for like 1 year, where there's like this little image of Kennedy staring at Lincoln on a damn penny. Are you kidding me? Okay? If you're crying out in the night, I can hear you. If you're trying to explain everything away, Matt, I can hear you. I know the objections that are coming. Matt, you're assuming that the history you're given mostly with Lincoln is real. Then you get into billions. It's not real, Matt. You're assuming that Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy. Well, it's probably pretty hard to fake that Kennedy had a secretary, or at least somebody on the cabinet called secretary named Lincoln. That's not that long ago. But see, all the history around Lincoln, they could have completely faked it to match it up, to create this bizarro scenario, because you can't confirm anything about Lincoln, Matt. You can't even confirm with 100% certainty that he lost a child during the presidency. That's what history tells us. Okay, I hear you. I hear you crying out in the night. I got you. It's a whole, if it didn't really happen and it's a fake history, but it's still impossible to pull off. I've been over this example before. It's not just about looking things up on the internet, which the Whopper computer bot can overwrite things and do whatever it wants and insert fake reality, obviously. But there are still things called libraries. Okay, this is where the reality breakdown comes. I'm not going to present this if I didn't think through the other side of it. You can go out and, remember I've talked about this recently, every university, I worked at Penn State's Petit Library. It has a rare books room. Okay, I wasn't even allowed in there to put books away, and the different things I did, check people out and different things at Petit Library. I worked there, and I wasn't working there, I was studying there. I was never in the rare books room. They didn't have me put books away or do anything in that room. And that's Penn State. Imagine what, University of Virginia or James Madison University, or just the universities by themselves with their old books. You can go research this stuff and find out that during Lincoln's journeys around, going down to the Ford's Theater or whatever. To me, it's Ford Theater. It's like a Mandela effect. Ford's Theater. That the person in charge of his security was named Kennedy. John Kennedy was responsible for Lincoln's security. You can go into so the men in black. They must have sent their armies, their fleets of pickup trucks all over the country before pickup trucks existed in the mid-1500s. They just rode horseback like the Pony Express, and they went into all these university libraries and planted the fake information in books in 1,000 university rare books rooms. And it's amazing how they planted these books, and it's all planted. See, nobody could pull that off. You can research this stuff in old books. Maybe there's a few you wouldn't find in the old books. But then it's carried forth unnaturally into even modern society, that there's only 2 presidents of all the presidents that have centers for the performing arts, centers. The Lincoln Center and the Kennedy Center. I guess the Lincoln Center in New York is like where the Met is, where Nick Cage, the worst actor of all time, I only have one wish, Loretta, to take you out and to take you to the opera. That's the Moonstruck. He had one wish. Get into my bed. Then that's the Lincoln Center. The Kennedy Center, that's where they do all those fraudulent honors. And I'm sure they honored Bill Cosby, of course, the Kennedy Center honors. So the reality tells you whether it was all planned and plotted by Men in Black or not, the Center for the Performing Arts. It's performance. Well, Matt, if it's fake, then the synchronicities they're not easy to coordinate per the rare books from example I just gave. But the event itself could be it could be faked, of course, even going back to Lincoln. Probably is. I don't buy it. I don't buy anything that this reality presents me. Then I guess the people that wrote the books, you're just writing it off the fake reality. All right, whatever. It's just the truth. The point is simple. Back up to 100,000 feet. Back up to the Kármán line where Bezos just shot up to, and look down at the reality and see it for what it is. Stop chasing it. Stop assuming it's real. Okay, it's a joke. Somebody tell a joke. That's from Moonstruck too. It was very tense, waiting for Johnny Camilleri to come. It's Johnny Camilleri. Loretta, I have to talk to you. No, I need my family around me now. Sorry. Next section. I'm done with this guy. This year's ESPN ESPYs Caitlyn Jenner Award for Courage, but a hybrid award presented to those in the truth community that investigate the impossible architecture in the world's fairs. The Courage Award goes to Wooden Nickels for trying to be as fair as possible in terms of exploring all sides. Now, I'm going to go much farther and present this issue along the same lines of the theme that I'm presenting through this entire video. And many of you will rise up out of your bubble baths and scream, "Cop out! Cop out!" Why is it a cop out? I just showed you how, in terms of all the big things we look at, reality breaks down, where there are sometimes multiple things per event, many times, most of the time, multiple things per event that cannot be explained inside the bookends of known reality. Well, that's fine for the 7-Eleven job application, Matt. That was a spell, complete reality breakdown. That does not need to align with reality and what I understand reality to be inside my toy box. But this is different. Why? This is different. You're talking about like heavy things. Like, that's a John Mayer album. Heavy things and things that could drop and fall, and that can't apply to this. To me, there's no difference between this and a Kit Kat dash. I believe, well, I'm going to turn a lot of people off here, and they're triggered, will really be upset and storm out of the room. We live in a gigantic Mandela effect. I'll talk about that in the future. Basically, all facets of reality change probably daily. We're all reset to it. They're throwing the rubber duckies inside the bubble baths right now. I can hear it. Cop out. Cop out. So what are you saying, Matt? I mean, it's just so nothing's real. This picture here, there really wasn't a woman up, looks like 7 stories up looking down, or 10 stories up looking down over the impossible architecture. That architecture, by the way, she's looking down at in this image, if you can see it, I'll describe it if you're driving or whatever. It's some big ass buildings, and it looks like she's looking down from like the Empire State Building. What are you saying? There really wasn't a woman there, Matt? And I'm saying potentially no. And I don't know, and I don't care. The entire reality is fabricated in some major way. In terms of, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life figuring out, well, these elements over here are real. These elements are complete fabrication, reality buttons and levers, reality breakdowns, spellcraft. We'll never know. Who cares? By my heel, I care not to figure it out. There's an element in everything big where reality breaks down. I don't know exactly if there was a real woman in this picture looking down from 50 stories. I don't know how high, how could she get so high? Well, there's a hill there. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The only point to take away, whether you disagree with me even 90%, is if you continue truth analysis along just with whatever you know, it has to fit in between your bookends. It has to be inside the toy box of known reality. If you limit yourself as a truth researcher to that, then to me, I have no other way to say. They're laughing all the way to the bank. We have to come up with another with another term except the bank, because many times if they're laughing all the way at truthers, it's not about money. So we'll come up with something there. They're laughing all the way to the whatever. Every time truthers, in my opinion, sit down and try to figure it all out, look, they're trying to figure it out inside the confines of their known reality. It's a fish in a fish tank exercise. We walk up to the fish, it's a fish tank where the fish cannot see out, but you can see in, and say, there they go again. Those fish are trying to figure out the nature of their universe. And they think the tank heater is, one of them are proposing it's some sort of hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen combustor. It's a natural element in the known universe. It's a heater that I put in there with my hand. They're trying to figure that out. And then the great waterfall from the sky. They have ways to explain that away. They live in a tank. It's a tank universe. They can never quite get it. They can never, if anybody ever stepped up inside their own little truther community inside the fish tank and say, this is artificial. We got to stop trying to figure every little thing out in this tank. There could be a whole host of things going on outside this environment. Then they'd be laughed at, right? You'd be laughed at because, no, we're in the tank and everything that exists in the universe must be here with us because look around and we're here, right? So we're fish in a fish tank. So you can't figure this stuff. There's no, the World's Fairs and the Impossible Architecture by itself is just as big of a reality breakdown as anything else. Let me do one more obnoxious and condescending segment on the architecture to present that aspect, as if I was, taking a Billy Madison podium. Just do it! Let me switch the image up because we're a little too focused on these World's Fairs. I mean, what about the ancient megalith structures, the cathedrals, the Great Pyramids? There's things all over the world that are 10 times as impressive that still exist. You can go, they still exist. There's no mystery to it. So it's the same conversation. If the Cologne Cathedral shouldn't have been able to be built, there's no way it could have been built for the time period it was built. It's the same carries forth to the World's Fairs. It carries forth. Why are we looking at the details on World's Fairs when there's 1,000 megalithic structures that there's no possible way it could be built per the time period it was built? If you go inside your toy box and try to come up with theories inside your bookends of known reality, every time the World's Fairs are discussed, the Great Pyramid should be discussed in the next sentence. It's all part of the same conversation. I've never been to the Great Pyramid. The one I'll talk about it one more time. I've been to the Cologne Cathedral. We were going to Oktoberfest in 1997. Me and the boys, I was about 30 years old. We were driving down to the Oktoberfest in Munich, because what could be better than flying halfway around the world just to engorge yourself in beer, where you couldn't even get up till noon the next day. So we're going to go by Cologne. I'm like, Cologne? Is that where that perfume for men came from? I didn't know a damn thing about anything then. No, there's a big cathedral. I'm like, what? That's horse shit. Who wants to see a big cathedral? Come on, let's get down to the beer. The Hofbrau tent's going full force right now. Like, no, we'll get there. We're going to do this. So, okay. So, I don't know where we stayed or wherever you turn around and you see this thing on the horizon, and it's the most shocking thing you've ever seen in your life. Matt, you gave this presentation about a year ago. Well, so what? Shut up. I'm going to do it again. It's alien. Okay, it's kind of like, those little Hummel villages, those little tiny villages people set up around their little train sets, and they do at Christmas. They do a little mini train set, and they do little villages, and their little town. Here's the little church. It's like if you took that mini village, that's the scale of the regular town, and then you you brought in like a gigantic Humvee and you parked it next to the little mini Hummel village. That's the scale difference. It's like you look at it and you go, what? What the hell is that? I can't describe to you how shockingly large it is. Okay, I've done the best I can. You walk into it and you go, somebody could fly a plane around in here. There's no, started in 1300 and some, there's no possible way, that there's regular men and women built this thing. It's the same reality breakdown conversation and that the World's Fairs have, the Great Pyramid has. It should all be part of the same conversation. I don't know why it's not. It should be, it's all part of the same whatever, Tartaria conversation. If you want to call Matt, it's a cop-out. Matt, it's a cop-out. It's so easy to just say the world's a simulation and that explains everything. It's such a cop-out. Fine. You keep looking in your toy box, trying to figure out how it was done, and I'm sure the reality will give you just enough to keep you interested, and the reality itself will structure it so you're just close to figuring out, because that's just one of its many distractions that the reality itself is presenting to real souls and human beings to distract them from the true nature of who they really are. Matt, are you saying the Cologne Cathedral is a reality distraction, like maybe no different than a Kit Kat dash? Yeah, I am. If you were to back up and look down at this from maybe the nature of your true self or whatever, it is no different, in my opinion. It is in the Sims game, a giant cathedral and a guy frying hot dogs and making scrambled eggs in his grill in the Sims game. Is there any difference? Well, of course not. That's a Sims game. Well, what's the difference here? Just because it physically seems heavy to you, and the reality gives itself away because there's no possible way the Cologne Cathedral could be built. And if you can, I'm going the whole way and saying it's some sort of fluid reality simulation, fine. But at least go outside the toy box. I'll give you an example. So inside the toy box, people will say the same old stuff. They'll say, well, Matt, they could have had some sort of steam power. It's all a mechanical way to explain it away. Matt, you don't understand what they knew about levers. They say, give me a lever big enough and I can move the world. Who knows what knowledge they had from the Library of Alexandria and the ways of doing things. But it's still assuming everything about the world fits into your reality bookends. I'd be more happy to listen to somebody that says, well, Matt, we assume gravity is a constant. Maybe as you go back hundreds and hundreds of years and we don't notice it in our lifetimes because it's so gradual, maybe gravity was a completely different thing when this thing was built. And or even a human being was different in some way, where right now it would be hard for a human being to lift an 80-ton block by himself, where back then a human being could just pick up two 80-pound blocks like it was nothing. Or the constant of gravity was different. In Star Trek, well, how are we going to change when Q had lost his power, he's helping out on the Enterprise. He had lost his power. And he's like, so you can still use me on the crew. I still have an IQ of 450. Like, how do we make it so this moon doesn't slam into this planet and kill all these innocent people? He's like, just change the coefficient of gravity or whatever, the mathematical coefficient of gravity, whatever that means. And they're like, Q, maybe you could do that when you had your powers, but we can't do that. Well, how do we know it doesn't change over time? And when they started building this thing, you could just float 500-pound blocks up on little strings and ropes. How do you know? See, at least this is having a conversation outside your toy box. It ain't in here. Keep looking. That's where you put your G.I. Joe, but you put it back in the toy box. It's got to be in there. It ain't in here. Keep looking in the toy box. Keep looking in and the reality laughs all the way to its spiritual bank as you keep trying to figure it out with one distraction after another. At least, again, if you assume somebody could say the pyramids, we assume that block was just as heavy when the pyramids were built than it is now. As you work back through time, the coefficient of gravity changed. And that old woman that in the Ten Commandments that was greasing the block, Josheba, whatever, turns out to be Moses' mother who almost got pulled under. She was greasing the block. That block could have been pulled by 10 guys, 9 of which were starving because all that shit was light back in the whole world was different. At least you're outside your toy box. If you see what I'm saying. So, call it a cop-out if you want, but I think the real laughable thing is to keep looking at an entire reality structured to give you nothing but distractions, and then you trying to figure it out. And just when you get bored with it, and just say it'll give you something to pull you back in. It's kind of giving itself away at this point as to how it does business. Okay, instead of doing hundreds of more examples like what we've been doing, and there probably are hundreds more that could be done if you water down your definition of reality breakdown, let's just jump to the big one. Let's just jump, this video's getting long. Let's just go right to the big one. And if you don't, I'm not going to say anything about this section, guys. I'm not even going to talk in code, hobo code, because I need this to load. This video is too long, and I'm not going to jeopardize it for this section. So if you don't see what's happening now as a reality breakdown, I can't help you at this point. But most of the truth community is still trying to figure it out with just men and women plotting and planning. You've got to be kidding me. I'm tired of saying the same thing. I'll make this presentation one more time. From doing what I've been doing in this video, I'm mentally kind of beat, but I'll gear up. I'll stretch out and gear up mentally one more time to do it. So here we go. Okay. So we have, I'm talking about reality breakdown associated with this event that is outside your toy box. Cannot be plotted and planned by sinister governments working together and men and women making phone calls. You have an impossible level. Number one, you have an impossible level of coordination when this thing started. They basically put the entire Western world into a face covering in 6 weeks. The amount, the amount of people that would have to have plotted and planned and been in on it at the government level, at the health levels, at the local level, it's impossible. Just that by itself, what they did in 6 weeks. And if somebody's saying, Matt, what about, they got the download, or that people are not as real as you and I, and they're operating at a certain frequency, or they're basically getting a download. That's a reality breakdown, isn't it? That's outside the toy box. That's fine. I'm just asking the truth community to stop for once. Most of every these BitChute channels that explain what exactly is happening, what Pfizer's doing to you, it's all inside the toy box. I'm kind of sick of it. It's not the answers of this world. First of all, this whole exercise is a waste of time. The whole world is a distraction, and it's here to keep us from ourselves. And even this is a screen exercise. I'm just trying to help people get to the final stage. So the level of coordination, impossible. To thousands and thousands of people at all levels need to be in on it. That by itself, and I've got 10 other things on the list here. But keep looking at the world as if it's completely real. Okay, you have no dissension of primary voices, no dissension whatsoever. Okay, don't tell me about some doctor from Topeka that got on BitChute. I mean, I applaud that doctor, whatever, for pushing back and jeopardizing their medical license and pushing back. No prominent voices whatsoever. Okay, impossible level of coordination, where you didn't have anybody from a governor of a certain prominent governor saying, taking a podium saying, I don't understand what all these states are doing. We're going to take a completely different approach in our state. And we're going to uphold something called the United States Constitution. I can't force people to do things. I'll recommend the face covering, but I can't force people to do things. And these other states are ignoring the United States Constitution. You had no dissenting voices from any prominent politician. That's an impossible and absurd level of coordination. If you call it the download, well, that's outside your toy box. That's all I'm asking you to do. Maybe it's not as maybe you don't want to go as far as me saying it's a Sims game, fluid reality, but at least even with the download, you're outside your toy box. But no dissension of any primary voices. You didn't have John Travolta and his genius ass step, or prominent anybody in Hollywood. Nobody, nobody going against the grain of any. When I say prominent voices, I'm not just talking about governors. I'm talking about like Morgan Freeman or anybody. And it's one thing to say, well, Matt, you know where their bread's buttered and their butter's breaded and they get paid, but there's not one person that would just say, F it, I have enough money and I'm going to do the right thing. It's just unnatural. Okay, even you're expecting Hollywood, Matt, to step up. That's okay. I hear you. I got you. But you understand what I'm saying. No dissenting voices across the board. You should be Hal and say, this Hal after the third or fourth woman that morning, beautiful woman went for me. Something else is going on here outside of known reality. Goldilocks presentation is number three. Number three, complete reality breakdown. Goldilocks presentation. You have a whole slew of people in the truth community and BitChute saying it's all fake, everything, but just everybody knows one person or two people that, they were diagnosed and they got it and they have complications, and it happened to my cousin and had to go back into the hospital, and everybody knows one. It's just enough. The stories are it's not like nobody knows anybody. Everybody has one or two stories that are kind of close to home that what a coincidence just gives everybody enough to hold on to believe everything the news is saying is real. That's a Goldilocks scenario that was even presented to me through my cousin. It's unnatural. Okay, it's impossible. The section of the truth community that still, I mean, are they still talking about completely fake? Like if you go down to every single, when in the height of this thing, every single hospital, just complete, not one patient, every single hospital, and there are 3,000 to 10,000 workers, they're all in on it. They're all just perfectly covering it up. No nurse in any hospital's tweeting, there's nobody here at all, and this is they're all paid and threatened. I mean, come on. It's just given the reality just served up enough illness to make it the Goldilocks level were just enough to be believable so the agenda could be carried forward. Of course, I don't believe the news, but you see what I'm saying? Okay. We're doing reality breakdowns just inside this one event, but this is the mother of all events. The financial impossibilities. The complete financial world is completely broken down. Nothing makes sense. Nothing is explainable. In a scenario where $1 trillion were taken off the table in terms of tourism, of course it was taken off. The flights didn't go out. All the people in Cairo that would get the millions and millions and millions of dollars a day from the tourists coming in, going to see the pyramids, that didn't happen for 8 or 9 months. So you take $1 trillion out of the world economy and the stock markets boom up. And if people can tell about we've talked about this. I'm not going to be too long on it. Helicopter money and injections of money and off-balance sheet money and stimulus, and all the big companies are getting that. Fine. And then if you just go down the road here and the little breakfast shop and the diet, everything's still open around here with one or two little exceptions. How's that possible when basically nobody did anything for a year? So you have the whole financial impossibilities. I could talk for 24 hours with a Texas catheter from a podium without having to read Green Eggs and Ham to do that one. The next one, bizarre human behavior and inconsistent and irregular human behavior. You have like the stories that are just with thousands of these stories. Sorry, we're closed due to, everything's closed and for months and months, but that didn't ripple through the economy. So Matt, we're past that. Move on to the next one. I hear you. So my neighbor, who's the handyman here, who's done some work around my house, things I can't do. He comes to check out what needs to be done here, and I told you the story. I'll be brief. He parks. This is, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 months ago, whenever it was. Parks 50 feet down my driveway, gets out with a mask on, and I'm like, "What are you doing? I'm not." You're not even coming in right now. We're just talking. He's like, I feel more comfortable, 50 feet away with a mask on. Like, what? And then when he comes back in a few days to do the handyman work here, he's like saying, here, hold this board. And like, well, why doesn't he care now? It's like bizarre human behavior that bounces all over the place. Inconsistent and irregular human behavior. And, what's that all about? Why did the download, plant that into people? I don't know. I can't predict what it wants, other than its obvious tactics to distract a human being away from its true nature. But you have that. What are we on, number 6 or something? You have the lockstep stages. You had just when the Coca-Cola Coke Zero boxes start saying time to enjoy the summer, or when your Coke Zero box says time to enjoy the summer or time to get back out there again or whatever from one of the creepy minions at the table, then they're going to give us our summer. Coke wouldn't get it wrong on the box from a major player like that. I forget exactly what it says on the Coke Zero box. So then fine, Phil Mickelson wins a golf tournament, and then all the fans in South Carolina are like all over him, thousands of people, no masks at all. So the lockstep opening, everybody just opens back up. Everything goes back to 80% back to normal, and it all happened again, all unnaturally, where you can see the states to states all falling into line. But then somehow they keep the coordination separate. That what the U.S. is doing is certainly not what's going on in Australia, certainly not what's going on in Thailand and Bangladesh and some of these third world countries, how they went lockstep in terms of the protocols and what the government say people should be doing, like the Philippines. Even somebody emailed me about Iraq had sea checkpoints. Iraq is going along. And I know there's places like, Sweden never did anything. In Tanzania, this is a one world system. They have a few test cases that are needed to feed information into the Whopper computer in this sentient world simulation. It's so unnatural and impossible how not just the initial 6 weeks of how everything was done, but how that when things started to, quote, open back up, and how some countries went along with it and others did not. And it's just an impossible level of coordination. And, let's just move on to the next. I did talk about bizarre test cases like Sweden and Tanzania. That just might be a country forgotten about, or something that the one world system can't quite get everywhere. Maybe Tanzania basically went about their business with no face coverings, few people here and there. They had no outbreaks whatsoever. It just magically, the V decided to magically stay away from Tanzania, or it's a sentient V, and the V said, I don't want to go into Tanzania. Do you, honey? Nah, we don't want to go in there. That place sucks. So they just decide nobody ever comes and go from Tanzania. There's no cross-border traffic. That's just impossible. Basically because of all the cross-border stuff, and I'm not even talking about flights, but shipping, flights, shipments, pilots flying internationally, staying over. And every country should basically be in the exact same situation. In one country, if it lagged behind, you'd see the lag of a week or two. If it is anything like they say it is, it would be more like what was presented in the movie Outbreak, where you had one flight, with Gwyneth Paltrow, again, creating an impossible situation, or a situation that mimicked the country where she came from just in a matter of weeks. You wouldn't have like the way the reality is presenting it is like countries are now like they're getting people to believe how everything is isolated, which is just impossible if it is what they say it is. But okay, let's continue, wrap this up. I can't speak anymore. I'm completely mentally gone. What does this say? They implanted confusion in a perfect way to create the most confusion in an unnatural way. Back to the summer of confusion in 2020. This high school is practicing for football, but this high school is shutting all football operations down. This high school the field hockey team is all practicing in masks, but they're not doing anything over here. And this state's doing something completely different than this state. And this country's doing. It was the confusion. First, you had the impossible. Matt, you just talked about lockstep coordination, where they needed it to be lockstep coordination, like the wearing of the face covering, but then where they wanted to insert the planned confusion to confuse the shit out of people, it was unnatural how perfect that was pulled off. All right, now I'm almost done here. What else did I write down here? They got the truth community to even doubt the cause of illness. I mean, where'd this come from? Honestly, I've been doing this a long time, guys. The truth community has been pushing for 8 to 10 years that, Matt, there's no such thing as a V, and all by design, per the way the reality and the minions do business. Impossible to pull this off. Huge segments of the truth community doubting that a V doesn't even exist. Where'd that come from? So magically and so perfectly, doubting germ theory and all this whole wave coming through, all by design, guys. And I'm like, well, no, the truth community is so smart. We figured out just when this was happening that the way pathogens work, according to every single university in the world, that's not even true. Come on, you don't see how we were obviously played and manipulated along those lines? And I don't know exactly what this is or what, but it's obvious when something is inserted into the truth community and it asks us to run with it, you should be able to spot it by now. Going along the same thing as the magnets sticking to people. I don't care if somebody could show me a magnet sticking to people. It's real. It was pushed inside, it was planted inside the truth community by the system itself. How is the truth community not obviously aware of when the system manipulates the truth community in these regards? But no, just watching the same old BitChute videos. So It's a conspiracy on top of a conspiracy on top of a conspiracy, a puzzle wrapped inside of an enigma. Or what? It's just impossible to have pulled. Nobody could pull all this shit off. Where it's left, where if you still don't understand what I'm saying, it's what is it? You have an entire segment of billions of people that turn to the news and believe every bit of what they say is going on is completely legitimate. And then you have an entire segment of people, us, with us, looking at the exact same information. It's information available to anybody, and seeing a completely different thing. This is not possible in anything that resembles a real world. Maybe that will eventually leak out to the truth community. Thanks for listening.